I sit in Mr. Harrison's law office watching my parents sign away my childhood home for the second time, and all I can think about is how this exact scene played out 3 years ago when they first gave the house to Sophia, then took it back when her marriage failed. And now they're doing it again, because apparently my sister's happiness matters more than the years I spent maintaining that house, paying its taxes, and believing that family loyalty meant something. This house belongs to the Chen family heir, my mother says, with that tone she uses when she's convinced herself her cruelty is kindness. And Sophia is married now with children planned while you're still single and focused on your career, Elena. The words hit like physical blows, because I remember her saying almost exactly the same thing before. My father signs with the same flourish he used to build Chen properties from nothing, now giving away the crown jewel to my younger sister Sophia for her marriage to Marcus Zhang, the man who is supposed to be my fiancé. Marcus sits beside Sophia with his hand on her thigh, the same man who spent 2 years pretending to love me while systematically stealing Chen Properties' clients and trade secrets. The same man who stood in our living room 6 months ago and told me he was leaving me for my sister because love isn't something you can force, Elena, and Sophia and I have something real. Elena, darling, you understand, don't you? Sophia turns to me with those wide eyes that have gotten her everything she's ever wanted. Marcus and I need space for the babies we're planning, and you're always so busy with work anyway. As if I haven't spent every weekend maintaining the gardens, overseeing renovations, paying heating bills my parents couldn't quite cover. But none of that matters because Sophia has won again, just like she always wins. The transfer is complete. The deed is now in Sophia's name, with Marcus as co-owner. I watch my entire childhood disappear into their hands while my parents beam at their successful younger daughter. Thank you for making this so smooth, Marcus says with that smile that used to make me believe he loved me. Sophia and I are excited to start our new life together in such a beautiful legacy home. I walk out knowing I've lost everything except my job at Chen Properties, and even that won't last long, because I overhear my parents discussing bringing fresh perspective and new leadership with Marcus. The memories flow like water breaking through a dam. I remember the MIT acceptance letter when I was 23, full scholarship plus research stipend. But my parents convinced me to stay local because family comes first, and Sophia needs your support through her struggles with pre-med. So I turned down MIT and worked 80-hour weeks building Chen Properties, while Sophia dropped out of pre-med, then art history, then psychology, finally deciding college wasn't for her. My salary barely covered rent, but every month I wrote checks for Sophia's credit card bills because sisters support each other. I watched relationships die because I was never available. David Morrison, the first man I really loved, finally said, "Elena, I feel like I'm dating a ghost. Your family has claimed every piece of you." By 26, Chen Properties had tripled revenue largely due to my work, but my parents still called me their dedicated career girl, with that tone suggesting it was somehow less admirable than finding a husband. That's when Marcus Zhang appeared at a charity gala, charming and apparently successful in real estate development. He courted me with patience and attention, asking detailed questions about our business strategies. I shared everything, every trade secret, every client relationship, every confidential detail because I believed he loved me. For 2 years, Marcus seemed perfect, supportive of my career, compatible with my family, apparently building a future with me. He proposed in the garden of my childhood home with my parents beaming and Sophia taking photos. But the truth revealed itself slowly. Clients mysteriously chose his company instead, using strategies remarkably similar to ones I discussed with Marcus. When I raised concerns, he dismissed them with hurt confusion. Then I discovered him with Sophia in my childhood home, partially undressed, looking at me with shock and guilt. "Elena, this isn't what you think," Marcus said calmly. "We have something we can't control." 6 months, he admitted when I demanded the truth. It started innocently, but we realized we had a connection different from anything we'd experienced. 6 months of lies while I planned our wedding. My parents knew and had decided my happiness was less important than accommodating this passionate love affair. The months that followed were humiliation and loss. I had to cancel wedding vendors and explain to confused friends why Marcus Zhang would no longer be joining the Chen family. Worse, Marcus's company began winning bids that had been Chen Properties, using tactics I'd shared with him. When I raised concerns, my parents dismissed them. "You can't let personal feelings interfere with professional judgment," my mother said. "You can't accuse Marcus of unethical behavior just because he's more successful." Sophia and Marcus moved forward with fairy tale perfection, documented on her social media with photos of romantic dinners and weekend getaways. They were engaged within 3 months, married within 6, and moved into the family home my parents gifted them. I attended their wedding because refusing would be seen as petty. I stood in the garden where I'd played as a child, watching my sister marry the man I'd loved. The final blow came 6 months later. My parents transferred majority ownership of Chen Properties to Marcus as a wedding gift, consolidating control of both the family home and business in the hands of the man who destroyed me. "Marcus has such innovative ideas," my father explained. "Your approach has become stagnant. We need leadership that can take Chen Properties to the next level." They offered me a consulting role, essentially firing me from the company I'd built while Marcus took over everything. My health began failing under the stress. I couldn't afford proper health care on my reduced income. The heart attack came quietly in my studio apartment, just spreading warmth and pressure until I couldn't breathe. My last thought was wondering if anyone would even miss me. I wake up and sunlight streams through windows too large for my studio apartment windows that belonged to my childhood bedroom in the house where I grew up. I hear my parents' voices downstairs, the same conversation from 5 years ago about how Elena needs to be more like Sophia, and maybe if she stays local she'll find a husband. I sit on my old bed, which still has the floral comforter I picked out at 18, trying to process what's happening. The MIT acceptance letter sits on my desk exactly where I left it 5 years ago. Perfect memory floods, betrayal, every moment of loss that led to my death. This time will be different. This time I know exactly what my family loyalty will cost me, exactly how my dedication will be rewarded when Marcus Zhang enters our lives. I pick up the MIT letter like a weapon against the future I've already lived. My phone buzzes with a text from James Liu, my childhood friend. "Herdmit wants you, that's amazing, Elena. When do you leave for Boston?" James Liu, the quiet boy who became successful, heir to Liu Construction, who always supported my dreams when my family dismissed them, who would have loved me properly if I'd ever given him the chance. I text back, "Just got the acceptance letter, full scholarship plus research stipend. I think I'm going to accept it." "That's the best news I've heard in months," comes his immediate reply. "You deserve every opportunity and more." I walk downstairs where my parents are planning my sacrifice over coffee. "Elena, sweetheart." My mother begins with that bright smile she uses when asking for something. "We have concerns about you moving so far away when the family business needs you, and Sophia really needs her big sister's support. I've decided to accept MIT's offer," I say, my voice steady. Their faces change from expectation to surprise to panic. "Elena, this is a family decision," my mother says, her voice sharp. "There are responsibilities and obligations you need to weigh against individual desires." "Sophia really needs you," my father adds. "Having her brilliant sister abandon her would be devastating." I think about Sophia 5 years from now, married to Marcus in my childhood home, running my company while I die alone. My sacrifice didn't help her, it enabled her continued helplessness. "Sophia is perfectly capable of handling her own struggles," I say professionally. "My staying wouldn't help her learn independence." "I'm very disappointed in this selfish attitude," my father says with moral authority. "We raised you to understand that family comes first." "I understand you're disappointed." I stand up, but I'm 23 and this is my decision. I've decided MIT's offer is best for my future, regardless of how that affects other people's plans. I walk out before they can respond and call MIT to confirm my acceptance. For the first time in either of my lives, I'm choosing myself. 2 months later, I'm at MIT, feeling like I've escaped from prison. When my parents call for weekly check-ins, their voices sound strained. "Things have been challenging without your help," my mother admits, especially with Sophia struggling to adapt to increased responsibility. Sophia in the family business, the same Sophia who dropped out of 3 college programs. The irony would be amusing if it weren't so predictable. "I'm sure Sophia will figure it out," I say neutrally, knowing exactly how this ends when Marcus appears to save the day. My life flourishes in ways I never imagined. My courses challenge me, Professors treat me as an intellectual equal. Fellow students value me for who I am rather than what I can provide. I'm building an investment portfolio using knowledge from my previous life, carefully chosen stocks and cryptocurrency that will create the financial foundation for my revenge. James and I text regularly, long conversations about business strategy and life philosophy. He's taken over more responsibilities at Lu Construction, implementing innovative sustainable development approaches. "How's MIT treating you?" he texts one evening. "I keep thinking how lucky they are to have someone with your analytical skills." "It's everything I hoped," I respond. "Challenging and inspiring and completely different from working for family, where ideas are filtered through politics rather than evaluated on merit." "Your family's loss is academia's gain," he replies immediately, "though I'm selfishly glad you're building expertise that could benefit future partnerships." Future partnerships. James is already thinking about working together as equals rather than exploitation. 3 months in, my parents call with predictable news. They're considering bringing in an outside consultant, someone with fresh perspective, Marcus Zhang from Zhang Development. Marcus Zhang. Right on schedule, exactly when I knew he'd appear. But this time I won't be there to provide inside information. "That sounds interesting," I say neutrally. "I hope you'll be careful about confidentiality agreements, especially with someone from a competing company." "Always so suspicious," my mother laughs. "Marcus seems genuine, very interested in collaboration." 6 months before graduation, they call with more expected news. Sophia and Marcus are engaged, planning a wedding in the family home. "It's such a love story," my mother gushes. "They found each other and knew immediately they were meant to be together." "I'm happy for them," I lie smoothly, because I genuinely am happy for Sophia to learn what systematic manipulation feels like. My final year at MIT flies by with advanced coursework and carefully calculated investments that transform my portfolio into real wealth. My thesis focuses on strategic real estate acquisition in gentrifying neighborhoods, exactly the methodology I'll need to buy every house on my childhood street. Meanwhile, my parents' calls become strained as they struggle without my strategic planning. "We're having client retention issues," my father admits. "Several long-term relationships have decided to work with other companies." Translation: Marcus has been systematically stealing Chen Properties clients using inside information, exactly as I remember, but without my participation. "That's unfortunate," I say neutrally. "Have you considered conducting an audit of business practices and client communication protocols?" "Marcus has been helping us review procedures," my mother responds, unaware she's asking the fox to guard the henhouse. My investment portfolio reaches 7 figures through Bitcoin, Tesla stock, and tech companies I know will grow dramatically. I've also been building relationships with real estate agents and developers, establishing connections for my neighborhood acquisition plan. James and I maintain regular communication, our conversations evolving from friendly updates to serious discussions about partnership. 6 months until graduation, he texts. "Any thoughts about what comes next?" "I'm thinking about returning to San Francisco," I reply. "There are some projects I want to pursue." "Lu Construction would be honored to have your expertise," he responds immediately. "And personally, I'd be thrilled to have you back." "I'm definitely interested in reconnecting," I tell him, both professionally and personally. "I'll be here when you're ready," comes his immediate reply. "I'm not going anywhere." The steady commitment I gave to people who abandoned me, now offered by someone who's proven his loyalty. 6 months before graduation, my parents confirm the next phase. Sophia and Marcus are officially engaged, planning an elaborate wedding in the family garden. "It's such a love story," my mother gushes again. "Marcus is so devoted to Sophia, so protective and supportive. I know now what she doesn't. Marcus's devotion is calculated manipulation, his protection is possessive control, his support creates dependence he'll exploit. I'm happy for them." I lie again, because this time I won't be there to watch it happen. This time I'll be building my own empire. I return to San Francisco with an MIT MBA, a $3 million portfolio, and a detailed neighborhood acquisition plan. My parents organize a welcome dinner at an expensive Union Square restaurant, where I can see immediately that 2 years have been hard on them despite their expensive clothes and forced cheerfulness. "Elena, you look wonderful," my mother says with overly bright enthusiasm. Mitt certainly agreed with you, though we hope you haven't become too cosmopolitan for simple family time. Marcus sits beside Sophia, looking exactly as I remember. When he extends his hand, I see the same calculated charm that fooled me before. Elena, such a pleasure to finally meet you, he says with that warm smile. Your parents have told me so much about your academic achievements. I'm hoping we'll have opportunities to discuss market trends and development strategies. Finally meet me, as if we don't have a history of engagement and betrayal, but his expression shows nothing but polite interest in his fiancée's accomplished sister. I'm always interested in discussing business strategy, I reply neutrally, studying his face for recognition. There's none. Marcus has been such a blessing, Sophia gushes. Not only is he the most wonderful partner, but his business expertise has been invaluable for modernizing Chen properties. I glance at my parents and see strain behind their polite smiles, exhaustion from fighting problems they don't understand. How are things with the company? I ask politely. My parents exchange looks. There have been some challenges, my father admits carefully. Client retention issues and competitive pressures, but Marcus has been helping us identify solutions. Translation: Marcus has been systematically stealing clients while positioning himself as the solution to problems he's creating. After dinner, I drive through my childhood neighborhood with new eyes, studying each property analytically. The Chen family home sits in the middle like a crown jewel, and I feel cold satisfaction realizing it will soon be surrounded by properties that belong to me. I start my acquisition campaign the next week through shell companies, offering homeowners 15 to 20% above market value. The first purchase is the house across from my parents, an elderly couple moving to Arizona, accept my $850,000 offer for their $720,000 house immediately. By month's end, I own 3 properties and have contacted 4 more owners. My parents have no idea their older daughter is systematically acquiring the entire neighborhood. Meanwhile, James and I explore partnership, starting with dinner meetings that evolve into long conversations about sustainable development and building something together. I've been hoping for years that you'd realize your worth, he says during an evening walk. Seeing you come back from Boston with such confidence is exactly what I always knew you were capable of. I learned about the difference between people who want to build something together and people who want to use your contributions for themselves, I tell him. James stops walking and faces me seriously. Elena, I don't want to presume anything, but I've cared about you longer than I've admitted. If you're open to exploring something deeper, I'd like to show you what it feels like to be with someone who sees your worth and wants to support your dreams. I'd like that, I tell him, surprised by how much I mean it. I think I'm finally ready to build something with someone who actually wants to build it together. 3 months after returning, I own 7 properties on my childhood street, while my parents continue struggling with Marcus's destruction. Completely unaware their older daughter is building the foundation for elegant revenge. 6 months back in San Francisco, I own 12 of 18 houses on my childhood street. My systematic acquisition proceeding with military precision, while my parents remain oblivious that their older daughter is buying their entire neighborhood. My shell company network prevents any connection being traced to me, each property purchased through different firms creating legal protection while maintaining anonymity. Homeowners are delighted with offers exceeding expectations by margins large enough to change their retirement plans. Chen Properties continues its death spiral under Marcus's manipulation. My parents' calls increasingly desperate. We're facing challenges we don't understand, my mother admits. We were wondering if you might have insights about client retention strategies. Any insights? After dismissing my concerns about information security, after choosing Marcus's supposed superiority, now they want my help because their golden boy is destroying everything I built. Have you considered a comprehensive audit focusing on information flow and client communication? I suggest neutrally. Marcus has been helping us review procedures, my father responds, still unable to see the irony. My business activities flourish through Luchen Development, our joint venture combining James's construction expertise with my financial resources and market analysis, focusing on sustainable community projects. I love working with someone who shares my values about building communities rather than extracting profits, James tells me during a planning session. And personally, I love being with someone who challenges me intellectually while supporting my goals. It's amazing what's possible when both partners are committed to each other's success, I respond, thinking how different this feels from Marcus's information gathering disguised as romance. Our relationship developed naturally from friendship to partnership to something deeper, built on mutual respect and shared values that makes every interaction feel like collaboration rather than competition. 8 months after returning, I receive expected news. Sophia and Marcus are officially engaged, planning an elaborate wedding in the family garden. "Elena, we have exciting news," my mother gushes. "Marcus proposed to Sophia last weekend, and they're planning the most beautiful wedding this spring in our garden where Sophia has always dreamed of getting married." Interesting revision of history, considering Sophia previously complained our parents' house was too traditional for her tastes. "I'm very happy for them," I say with perfect sincerity, because I genuinely am happy for Sophia to marry the man who will teach her what systematic manipulation feels like. "We were hoping you might consider being Sophia's maid of honor," my mother continues hopefully. "I appreciate the invitation," I respond diplomatically, "but I think it would be more appropriate for Sophia to choose someone more involved in her relationship with Marcus. I'm not going to celebrate a marriage built on my previous relationship's destruction or provide my parents with optics of family harmony while they ignore family betrayal." 2 weeks later, I close on the 15th property, leaving only 3 houses I don't own, including the Chen family home. My shell companies control over 70% of the street where my parents live in ignorance of their older daughter's strategic positioning. Meanwhile, Marcus prepares for his final theft phase. "Elena, we need to discuss something important," my father says during our next call. "Chen Properties is facing significant financial challenges, and we're considering major strategic changes." "What kind of changes?" I ask, already knowing. "We're thinking about bringing Marcus in as a full partner," my mother explains, "giving him majority ownership as a wedding gift, recognizing his contributions and ensuring strong leadership. Especially since you've chosen independent projects." A wedding gift. They're framing complete surrender of their life's work as generosity rather than desperate face-saving. "That sounds significant," I respond neutrally. "I hope you'll have good legal representation." "Marcus is family now," my father laughs dismissively. "Family doesn't need complex legal protections, just trust and mutual commitment. The same naive trust that will leave them with nothing when Marcus completes his systematic destruction." 6 weeks before Sophia's wedding, I own 17 of 18 properties through carefully timed offers, coinciding with retirements and relocations. My systematic acquisition is nearly complete, with only the Chen family home remaining. Soon Sophia will marry Marcus in a garden surrounded by my properties. Soon my parents will sign away their business to the man destroying it. Soon they'll learn what losing everything feels like when someone they trusted never cared about their well-being. The morning of Sophia's wedding dawns clear and perfect. I wake in James's apartment with anticipation that has nothing to do with romantic celebration and everything to do with systematic revenge about to unfold with devastating elegance. I've completed final details of my neighborhood acquisition, owning every house on the street except the Chen family home where 300 guests will celebrate a marriage built on betrayal, unaware they're celebrating in the center of an empire belonging to the woman whose life was destroyed to make this wedding possible. James helps me dress in understated but expensive navy silk that speaks of sophisticated wealth without ostentation, everything carefully chosen to project quiet power and unshakable confidence. "Are you sure about this?" he asks concernedly. "You don't owe them anything." "I'm not proving my worth," I tell him steadily. "They need to understand consequences. They need to learn what losing everything to someone they trusted feels like." "And afterwards?" he asks, straightening my necklace carefully. "Then I build something beautiful," I tell him, thinking about our partnership and plans for sustainable development. Something that belongs to people who value it properly. We drive through my childhood neighborhood that now belongs entirely to me, except the single property where my sister will marry the man who destroyed my previous life. I feel cold satisfaction passing house after house, representing another piece of my revenge strategy. The Chen family garden is transformed into fairy tale elegance, with white chairs, expensive flower arrangements. string quartet playing while guests arrive in luxury cars and designer clothing exactly. The excess Sophia has always craved and my parents provided for their precious daughter. I greet my parents with polite affection, accepting compliments about how sophisticated I look after MIT. Elena, you look stunning. My mother gushes with relief that I'm participating despite declining maid of honor. That dress is perfect, so elegant and professional, though we hope you'll find time for romance once you've established your career. Actually, I'd like you to meet James Liu, I say, taking his arm with genuine pride. We've been working together on development projects and personally exploring something deeper than business partnership. My parents' expressions shift from polite interest to surprise to alarm as they recognize the Liu family name and realize their older daughter found success and happiness without their guidance. James Liu from Liu Construction? My father asks, calculating social implications. Very impressive company, solid financial foundation. Thank you, Mr. Chen, James responds with perfect balance of respect and confidence. Elena and I have been developing innovative, sustainable community approaches. Professionally and personally, we complement each other very well. The ceremony proceeds with practiced elegance, while Marcus works the crowd with characteristic charm, building relationships even on his wedding day, still playing the long game of social advancement that defined our previous relationship. During the reception, I wait for the perfect moment when all 300 guests are present, when my parents are glowing with pride at their successful event, when Sophia and Marcus are basking in congratulations and admiration. I stand and request the microphone, my voice carrying clearly across the garden as conversations fade to attentive silence. Thank you all for being here to celebrate Sophia and Marcus. I begin warmly. As the bride's sister, I wanted to share some exciting news about a project that's particularly meaningful to our family and this beautiful neighborhood where we grew up. My parents beam, expecting a touching sisterly tribute. Sophia looks surprised but pleased at my apparent participation in her special moment. Over the past year, I've been working on a strategic real estate acquisition focused on preserving the historic character of this wonderful community. I continue, my voice gaining strength and authority. I'm delighted to announce that this project has been incredibly successful. I pause, letting anticipation build while scanning the crowd of business associates, family, friends, and social connections who represent my parents' entire professional and personal network. In fact, I'm pleased to report that as of this week, I now own every single property on this street except the beautiful Chen family home where we're gathered today, I announce with quiet pride, watching my parents' faces transform from beaming pride to confusion to dawning horror. The garden falls completely silent, except for the string quartet, who continue playing because they don't understand the significance of what I've just revealed. I've established a historic preservation trust that will ensure this neighborhood maintains its character and charm for generations to come. I continue smoothly. The trust has very strict guidelines about architectural modifications, commercial development, and property usage to protect the historic integrity of the area. My father's face has gone pale as he begins calculating the implications. My mother looks bewildered, not yet understanding what this means for their family's future. Of course, the Chen family home doesn't qualify for the historic preservation protections since it's no longer owned by the founding family, I add with gentle regret. But I'm confident that whoever eventually acquires it will respect the neighborhood character standards we'll be maintaining. Marcus has stopped charming guests and is staring at me with the first genuine expression I've seen from him all day, shock and growing recognition that he's been systematically outmaneuvered by someone he never considered a threat. I've been selected to serve as the trust's director, I conclude with a bright smile, so I'll be closely involved in ensuring all neighborhood standards are maintained and enforced. It's wonderful to know this special place where we grew up will be protected forever. The applause is scattered and confused as guests try to process what they've just heard. Some recognize it as a significant real estate announcement, others sense underlying tension without understanding its source, but everyone can feel the shift in power dynamics that has just occurred. I hand the microphone back and return to James's side, accepting his supportive squeeze of my hand as my parents finally begin to understand that their older daughter, the one they dismissed and undervalued for years now, controls their entire world. Sophia looks between me and Marcus with growing panic, finally understanding that her fairy tale wedding is happening in the center of her sister's empire, that her husband's systematic manipulation has been matched and exceeded by someone he never saw coming. Elena, my father approaches with careful control. Perhaps we could discuss this privately? Of course, I say graciously, though I should mention that all the legal documentation is already filed and recorded. The trust is fully established and operational as of yesterday. Within an hour, the wedding reception transforms from celebration to crisis management as my parents and Marcus realize the scope of what I've accomplished, how completely I've surrounded them with power they can't challenge or escape. But I don't stay to watch their panic unfold. I leave with James, our hands intertwined as we walk toward our car and our future together, built on the foundation of mutual respect and genuine love that my family never understood or valued. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my office at the Historic Preservation Trust, reviewing applications for neighborhood improvements while planning my wedding to James Liu, and the view from my window shows the beautiful community we've created through careful stewardship and sustainable development principles. The Chen family home sold 3 months ago when my parents could no longer afford the mortgage payments after Chen Properties finally collapsed under Marcus's systematic theft. Marcus and Sophia's marriage lasted exactly 4 months after the wedding. Apparently his charm wasn't enough to sustain them through financial difficulties and social embarrassment. My parents moved to a modest apartment in Oakland, finally understanding the consequences of choosing favoritism over loyalty, manipulation over genuine dedication. They've called several times asking for family reconciliation, but I've learned the difference between forgiveness and enabling continued toxicity. Sophia works as a retail manager now, her social media influence evaporated along with her lifestyle funding. Marcus disappeared entirely after Chen Properties' bankruptcy, probably searching for new victims to charm and manipulate in another city. I converted the Chen family mansion into a community center that serves the entire neighborhood, hosting cultural events and educational programs that bring people together rather than creating division and hierarchy. The irony is perfect. The house that represented their favoritism and my exclusion now belongs to everyone equally. James walks into my office carrying coffee and wearing the smile that reminds me daily what genuine love looks like, what partnership means when both people are committed to each other's success and happiness rather than competing for power and control. Ready for the final venue walkthrough? He asks, referring to our wedding planning. Liu Construction finished all the garden improvements yesterday, and it looks exactly like the vision you drew up. Ready, I tell him, thinking about how different this feels from my previous engagement to Marcus, how building a life with someone who values you properly transforms every decision from sacrifice to collaboration, every choice from compromise to shared creation. We're planning a small ceremony in the community center garden, surrounded by friends who celebrate our happiness rather than family members who see our relationship as an opportunity for manipulation or social advancement. James's parents are delighted to welcome me as their daughter-in-law, treating me with the warmth and respect that I thought existed only in other families. Any regrets? James asks as we walk hand in hand through the neighborhood that I now steward, past houses where families have built genuine communities instead of the competitive display that characterized my childhood. None, I tell him honestly. I learned that loving people who don't value you properly is actually a form of self-destruction, that family loyalty should be mutual rather than one-sided obligation, that building something beautiful requires partners who appreciate beauty rather than people who take it for granted. My phone buzzes with a text from my former college roommate. Saw the announcement about your wedding and your community development work in the Chronicle. So proud of everything you've built. You always deserve someone who saw your worth. You always deserved someone who saw your worth. Words that acknowledge the fundamental truth I learned through betrayal and rebirth, that real love doesn't require sacrifice of dreams or identity, that genuine partnership creates expansion rather than limitation, that the right person will support your highest potential rather than demanding you diminish yourself for their comfort. What are you thinking about? James asks, noticing my thoughtful expression. Just grateful, I tell him, looking around at the neighborhood where I grew up, where I was hurt and dismissed and ultimately destroyed by people who should have protected me. where I've now created something beautiful and lasting that reflects my values rather than serving other people's convenience. Grateful for the community we've built, for the partnership we've created, for learning that happiness isn't something you earn through sacrifice but something you build with people who value you properly. James stops walking and pulls me into his arms, kissing me with the kind of passion that comes from genuine appreciation rather than calculated manipulation, the kind of love that grows stronger through support rather than diminishing through competition. "Here's to building beautiful things together," he says against my lips, with someone who understands that love means addition rather than subtraction, partnership rather than parasitism, creation rather than destruction. Here's to building beautiful things together. The perfect summary of everything I learned through betrayal and rebirth, everything I gained by choosing myself over family obligation, everything I created by valuing my own worth enough to demand that others value it too. The sunset casts golden light across our neighborhood, across the houses where families have built genuine communities, across the garden where we'll promise each other forever in front of people who celebrate our happiness rather than calculating how to use it for their own purposes. For the first time in either of my lives, I'm completely happy, completely secure in love that doesn't require sacrifice, completely confident that I've built something lasting with someone who deserves my trust and commitment and dreams. Sometimes, the best revenge is simply living well with people who appreciate your worth, building something beautiful that can't be taken away by manipulation or family politics, or the casual cruelty of people who mistake love for obligation. I've learned that you can't force people to value you properly, but you can choose to surround yourself with people who already do, and that makes all the difference between destruction and creation, between serving others' goals and building your own dreams, between surviving betrayal and thriving in genuine love. The neighborhood I've created, the partnership I've built, the life I've chosen, all of it represents the ultimate victory over people who thought my loyalty was weakness, who mistook my dedication for obligation, who believed they could take everything I built without consequences. They were wrong, and now they know it, and that knowledge is worth more than any apology they could offer or any reconciliation they could propose. Some lessons can only be learned through loss, and some relationships can only be healed through justice, and some futures can only be built by people brave enough to choose themselves when everyone else chooses convenience. I chose myself, and it made all the difference.